So, here we are beginning with our first topic, that is Introduction to Health Psychology, which is the first unit of Health Psychology, BA Honors Psychology Semester 6. Looking at the contents that we are going to cover includes the Introduction to Health Psychology, the components of health psychology, the mind-body relationship, the goals of health psychology, and finally, the biopsychosocial model of health. So first of all, let's talk about what is health. Now, what is health in your way? Health that you would be defining is, I'm fine, I'm fit, that means I'm healthy. But no. WHO defined health as a complete state of mental, physical, and social well-being, and therefore it is not just merely the absence of illness. And it all comes down to the definition of health psychology as well. And therefore, what health psychology is defined as, it is concerned with examining the psychological aspects on the physical illness. But you will ask for a good definition of health psychology, and so here is one which is given on your screen. That is the definition of classic health psychology given by Matterism. And what it says is, health psychology is the aggregate of the specific educational, scientific, and professional contributions of the discipline of psychology to the promotion and maintenance of health. That means it is concerned with promoting health behavior and maintaining the healthy habits. The prevention and treatment of illness, that means as to how a disease or an illness can be prevented and can be further treated. The identification of the etiologic and diagnostic correlates of health. And what etiology means is the causal factors or the determinants or the antecedent factors that lead to an illness. And finally, it relates to dysfunction and the analysis and improvement of the healthcare system and health policy formulation. So the health psychologists are also there to look upon what all health policies are being made, whether they cover the entire strata, whether they cover all the sections of people or not, and whether it is implemented well or not. And therefore, this definition can be extended to the focus of health psychologists, which is comprising of four major pointers. The one is it focuses on health promotion and maintenance. The second is the study of the psychological aspects of prevention and treatment of illness. Third, the etiology and correlates of health and illness. And finally, to analyze and attempt the healthcare system and formulation of healthcare policies. You can read it once and then we'll be moving forward to the next topic. Beginning with the next topic, that is the components of health. So there are 5 major components of health that we are going to discuss about. The first is the physical health. Now, what is physical health is what has, can, and will affect your physical body, which can be seen and practiced in terms of the physique or the physical stature. It includes the genetics, the diet, the exercise, the illness, and the disability as well. All of these come under the concept of physical health. The second component of health is the social health. Now, what does the society or the social world means? It refers to the interaction that we have with the people around us. It could include the family, the friends, the teachers, the classmates, and even the strangers. And therefore, the psychological health basically includes what all societal components can influence our health. It could even be indirect in terms of the media influences, social networking sites, etc. The next component of health is the cognitive health. So cognitive health includes multiple factors which are all linked to our cognition. And what does that cognition comprises of? The memory, the learning, the reasoning power, the language. Now, when all these factors, like as you can see on the screen, the memory, judgment, intuition, language, and reason all function properly, then that is considered to be a cognitively healthy human being. The fourth factor or the component of health is the emotional health. So emotional health is simply not feeling happy all the time. Emotional health basically means having or showing the correct emotions at the time of the correct situation. That means appropriate situation, appropriate emotion. Then only a person is considered to be emotionally healthy. The last component of health is the psychological health. Now, psychological health is characterized by three major factors. The first one being a reasonable and continuous finding of one's satisfaction in living. That means finding the meaning for one's existence. The second is a utilization of problem-solving mode of behavior as to how well you can apply your decision-making and problem-solving abilities into dealing with various situations. And third is the ability to perceive one's environment with relative freedom and without any distortion by various other means and external factors. And all these five are therefore the components of health. That means, I repeat, the physical health, the social health, the emotional health, the cognitive health, and lastly, the psychological health. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is the mind-body relationship. We'll be discussing about a brief history about it. It starts with the prehistoric times. So during the prehistoric times, most cultures regarded it as that the mind and the body are intertwined. That means the diseases were thought to arise when the evil spirits entered into the body. And what was done to remove those evil spirits from the body was holes were digged in the body or in the skull in order to let the evil spirit escape from that person or that part of the body. And that has been found in various skulls in the prehistoric times which had holes in their body. Second definition was given by the ancient Greeks, who shifted their concern from that link between the mind and the body to identifying the role of bodily functions or factors in health and illness. So they identified that there is a disbalance among the four humors or the four fluids in the body that causes or leads to diseases. And what are these four humors are the blood, the black bile, the yellow bile, and the phlegm. And if there is any one which is out of balance, then that leads to the diseases. And to restore them, all these four fluids have to be brought back to the balance in the body. Then during the Middle Age, again there was a shift to the explanation of illness to the supernatural powers. And disease was then regarded as the god's punishment for evil doing. And cure was often consisted of driving out the evil forces by torturing the body. And church was heavily involved in all these processes, and therefore the religious overtones and the medical practices were both used in a combined way to deal with the diseases. Then came the Renaissance period. Now there were various advances that took place during the Renaissance period, and what were these? The prominent of these advances were the development of the science of autopsy that helped the medical practitioners to see the organs, and also the invention of microscope. So what was basically being used was, from the humoral illness of the body was put to rest. So the humorous theory was put to rest, and now the laboratory findings were the most used during the Renaissance period. And there were a lot of contributions made by Freud in terms of the psychoanalytic contributions that included that specific unconscious conflicts can produce particular physical disturbances that symbolize repressed psychological conflicts. So he came back to his own conversion hysteria work that he did, and he told that because of some childhood repressed conflicts in the unconscious mind, it all comes back to the appearance in the physical disturbances, and that he called it as illness. Then came the concept of the psychosomatic medicine. So the word psychosomatic means that includes the mind, that is psychological aspect, as well as soma, that means bodily aspect. And therefore the work that was prominent in this case was that of Dunbar and Alexander, and he assumed that a particular disorder or a disease were believed to be psychosomatic in origin. That means the bodily disturbances or disorders were caused by the emotional conflicts. And the prominent diseases that were there at that time were ulcers, rheumatoid arthritis, hypertension, etc. Moving on to the next topic, that is the goals of health psychology. Now, what health psychology or the health psychologists basically aim at includes these 8 major goals. So the first is the understanding behavioral and contextual factors for health illness. The second is preventing illness. So they basically aim at taking all the measures that can be taken to prevent the spread of an illness. Next is investigating the effects of a disease. What all impacts the disease have on the human beings, be it psychological, emotional, social, and physical. They study all those aspects. Then comes providing the critical analysis of the health policies. Now, what does critical analysis use? Critical analysis means that they evaluate the pros and cons of whatever policies that are being formulated related to the health. Then they conduct the research on the prevention and the intervention in the health problems. So what are the methods or the strategies that can be used to prevent the spread of the illness, and also to the interventions that can be used, the technologies, the strategies, the methods, and the processes that can be used in dealing with the health problems. Now, they also focus on improving the doctor and the patient communication. So it's considered that the doctor is not only the expert, but the patients also know about their body, and the patients are not novice. So both the doctor and the patient need to combine their thoughts in the treatment process to make it more efficient. Also, they try to improve, to adhere to the medical advice. They educate the people through social networking sites, through posters, and to improve their awareness as to why it's important to adhere to the medical advices that have been given to them. Finally, they try to find the treatments that can be used to manage the pain. And we'll be discussing about the pain management strategies in the further lectures. So here is the last topic of this unit, and that is the biopsychosocial model. Now, after reading this word, what comes to your mind first? That it combines 3 major factors. That is the biological, the psychological, and the social factors in dealing with health and illness. And here it is what this model says about. It says that all these 3 factors are important determinants of health and illness. And so, this model views the health and the illness behaviors as product of the biological characteristics. Now, what are the biological characteristics? The genes, etc. in the body, or the chemical imbalances that occurs in the body. Second, the behavioral factors. Now, what are the behavioral factors? Include the lifestyle, the stress, etc. And finally, it includes the social conditions. The social conditions involves the cultures, the human beings, the family, the interactions, and even the social support. So this model can be applied clinically, and therefore its clinical implications can be one, that one particular disease or an illness can be viewed from all the 3 perspectives, whether there is malfunctioning in the genes or whether there is disturbances in the chemicals inside the body. Second, the psychological impact, whether it's an impact of the personality or the stress or due to some other lifestyle changes. And finally, the role of social, that means what kind of social support a person gets, the family support, the family system, the socio-economic strata, etc., and how all these are interlinked in leading to a healthy behavior or in leading to an illness. Thus, this model makes the explicit significance of the relationship between the patient and the practitioner. So there are 4 basic main assumptions of this biopsychosocial model, and what are these assumptions we are going to discuss about. So the first assumption of this model is the biological underpinnings. So just like any other explanation of mind and body, this model also assumes that the physical malfunctioning is the basis of understanding a health problem. What comes second is the interaction of factors. as to how the social, the cultural, the psychological factors, including the type of personality a person has. So, for example, if a person has type A personality, then they might be more prone to becoming hyperactive or coronary heart disease. Similarly, if a person is type B personality, they might be less likely or less prone to get that disease. And therefore, the interaction of all these factors are studied. The third assumption is the mutual expertise. It assumes that the doctor is not only the expert, like it was considered that the doctor knows everything, but this model says that no, the patient himself knows very well about his bodily functions, the emotions that are going on, the changes, and his thoughts. And therefore, it emphasizes on the interaction between the patient and the doctor so that the both of them work together to improve their usefulness of the treatment or the intervention that has been used. And finally, the major assumption is that of holism, which is holistic approaches are used that combines a lot of factors. So now everything is not considered as individual pieces, but the person is treated as a whole. Now, what does treating a person as a whole means? It means treating every aspect of their health, not only in terms of physical injuries, but making that person emotionally, socially, and psychologically healthy is what this model views to be. And this is the end of this topic, and with this we end up with unit 1. For the next unit, we'll be presenting a new presentation. Thanks a lot.